One evening, Innie was on a call with a guy it was their first time meeting in person. After the call, she turned to Boma with a playful smile. "Boma, my sister, please give me that your new bone-straight wig for tonight." "I beg, just this once," Innie pleaded. Boma frowned. She had just bought that wig that very day and hadn't even worn it out yet. "Innie, no, nah, I haven't even rocked it myself, but you can pick another one from my closet," Boma offered, pointing to her collection. Normally, Boma was the type of girl who would give you anything, even if it made her uncomfortable. But this time, something in her gut told her not to. Innie pouted, then started guilt-tripping her. "So you can go all out for others, but not me. Me, your best friend. After everything we've been through." Innie scoffed, folding her arms. Boma felt bad, but still she shook her head. "Innie, it's not that. I just got it today. Please, just pick another one." Innie's expression darkened. She huffed, grabbed her phone, and stormed out angrily. The night Boma refused to give Innie her wig, something dark awakened inside Innie. She stormed out of the hostel, her heart pounding, rage burning through her veins. "So after everything, she thinks she's better than me," she muttered under her breath, walking briskly down a dimly lit road. For years she had smiled, pretended to be happy for Boma, but deep down she had always wanted her life, her beauty, her confidence, her wealth. And now, just because of a wig, Boma had the audacity to say no. Innie clenched her fists, her breath ragged. That was the moment she made her decision. How it all started. Inside a dimly lit university hostel room, Boma sat before her mirror, brushing her long, curly human hair wig. She sighed, admiring how the golden brown strands shimmered under the faint light. It was one of her most expensive wigs, ordered from an international vendor. She had worn it earlier that day, but as usual, she had lent it to her best friend, Innie, who had just returned it an hour ago. Boma was from a royal family in River State, effortlessly elegant and admired for her intelligence and classic fashion sense. She never lacked anything: luxury clothes, designer bags, the latest iPhone, and most notably, a vast collection of wigs. She had wigs of all types: curly, straight, long, short, from the finest human hair sourced from Brazil, India, and Vietnam. Innie, on the other hand, was from Calabar, not poor, but known for living a fake life. She was lively and full of energy, always borrowing things to keep up appearances. If Boma had something new, Innie would find a way to get her hands on it. They had been best friends since childhood, and with the help of Boma's father's scholarship program, Innie had gained admission to Royal Heritage University, where they became hostel roommates. At first, Boma didn't mind lending Innie her wigs. "Bestie, you know I can't let you go out looking anyhow. Take this one, it will fit you well," she would say. Innie would beam with excitement, wear the wig for days, and return it after flexing. But lately something felt off. Each time Innie returned a wig, Boma would feel strange mild headaches, dizziness, and unsettling dreams. She found herself in eerie places: dark forests, ancient shrines, shadowy figures whispering things she couldn't remember upon waking. She ignored it, chalking it up to stress. Boma being the kind of girl who always went the extra mile to make people happy. She was that friend who would say, "That outfit doesn't look good. Okay, wear my heels or sandals to class or the party, no problem." She was generous to a fault, always giving without hesitation. Her best friend, Innie, often warned her to be careful with how freely she lent out her things, but Boma, being free-spirited, would just laugh it off. Girls her age had already started calling her mummy because of how she treated her hostel roommates and others with love, always willing to share whatever she had. One evening, Innie was on a call with a guy it was their first time meeting in person. After the call, she turned to Boma with a playful smile. "Boma, my sister, please give me that your new bone-straight wig for tonight. I beg, just this once," Innie pleaded. Boma frowned. She had just bought that wig that very day and hadn't even worn it out yet. "Innie, no nah. I haven't even rocked it myself. But you can pick another one from my closet," Boma offered, pointing to her collection. Normally, Boma was the type of girl who would give you anything, even if it made her uncomfortable. But this time, something in her gut told her not to. Ini pouted, then started guilt-tripping her. "So you can go all out for others, but not me? Me, your best friend? After everything we've been through?" Ini scoffed, folding her arms. Boma felt bad, but still, she shook her head. "Ini, it's not that. I just got it today. Please just pick another one." Ini's expression darkened. She huffed, grabbed her phone, and stormed out angrily. The night Boma refused to give Ini her wig, something dark awakened inside Ini. She stormed out of the hostel, her heart pounding, rage burning through her veins. "So after everything, she thinks she's better than me," she muttered under her breath, walking briskly down a dimly lit road. For years, she had smiled, pretended to be happy for Boma, but deep down, she had always wanted her life, her beauty, her confidence, her wealth. And now, just because of a wig, Boma had the audacity to say no. Ini clenched her fists, her breath ragged. That was the moment she made her decision. She wasn't going to stand by and watch Boma shine while she remained in her shadow. As she walked deeper into the night, a name came to her mind: Mama Idara. A woman people whispered about. A woman said to have powers. A woman who could help those who wanted more in life no matter the cost. The path leading to the shrine was overgrown with thick, twisting roots. The trees hung low, their branches swaying eerily as if they were watching her. Ini hesitated for a second, but then she remembered Boma's smug look, her perfect life, her wealth. Her resolve hardened. She stepped forward. The deeper she walked, the colder the air became. The sounds of the city faded, replaced by a strange humming, low, rhythmic, almost like a chant. Then, through the darkness, she saw a small mud hut covered in red and black markings. A single lantern flickered outside, casting long shadows on the walls. Before she could knock, the door creaked open, and there stood Mama Idara. Mama Idara was an old woman with piercing yellow eyes and deep tribal scars on her cheeks. Her hands, long and bony, were adorned with strange beads. She looked at Ini as though she had been expecting her. "You seek power," Mama Idara said in a low voice, stepping aside to let Ini in. Inside, the shrine smelled of burning herbs and incense. The walls were lined with clay pots, each filled with murky water. In the center of the room was a blackened wooden altar, covered in strange carvings. Ini swallowed. She had heard stories about this place. People who came here never left the same. But she was desperate. She cleared her throat. "Mama, I need help." Mama Idara sat on a stool, watching her carefully. "What do you want?" Ini licked her lips. "I have a friend. She has everything: beauty, wealth, success. I want it. I want it all." The old woman chuckled, a sound that sent shivers down Ini's spine. "Envy is a powerful thing, my child. Are you willing to do what it takes?" Ini hesitated for only a second. Then she nodded. "Yes." Mama Adara's smile widened, revealing darkened teeth. She reached for a small calabash and pulled out something inside a tiny clay doll, its head wrapped in a golden brown thread. Hair. Boma's hair. Ini's breath caught. "How?" "Her glory is already being prepared," Mama Idara said. "But you must complete the ritual. Do you have something that belongs to her?" Ini hesitated, then slowly pulled out Boma's old wig from her bag. Mama Idara's eyes gleamed. "Good," she whispered. She took the wig and placed it on the altar, lighting a black candle beside it. The flame flickered, casting dancing shadows on the walls. "From this night forward," Mama Idara said, stirring a bowl of dark liquid, "her light will dim, her beauty will fade, her success will crumble. Bit by bit, everything she has will become yours." Ini's heart pounded. This was it. There was no turning back now. That night, as Ini left the shrine, a strong wind howled through the trees, almost as if the universe was warning her. But she didn't care. She had made her choice. And as she walked back to the hostel, she smiled to herself. The next morning, Boma woke up with a pounding headache. She brushed it off as stress. Ini's behavior changed. She started acting distant, cold, and strangely resentful. Boma wasn't someone who could keep malice. She hated tension, so after a few days, she decided to make peace. She went to Ini, apologized, and tried to make things right. That same evening, N 500,000 was transferred to her account. Just like that, their friendship returned to normal. Boma, the wealthy and generous one, always made sure Ini never lacked. If Ini couldn't afford something, Boma would step in without hesitation. She had bought her clothes, covered her outings, even paid for some of her school expenses. "Bestie, you know I can't let you suffer," Boma would say with a laugh whenever Ini hesitated to accept her help. Ini, on the other hand, always played the grateful friend. She cheered Boma on, hyped her up at every chance, and acted as though she was genuinely happy for her success. But underneath, something darker was brewing, a jealousy so deep that even Ini didn't realize when it started turning into resentment. One day, as they scrolled through social media in their hostel room, Boma saw a comment under one of her pictures. "Oh Mo, you too fine. Money good a big," she laughed, tossing her phone aside. "See as people de-hype me. Bestie, when God blesses you een, we go flex." But when she turned to Ini, she noticed a strange look flash across her face just for a second. Something unreadable, something bitter. "E hen na," Ini said, forcing a smile. "Me sef go soon blow." Boma didn't think much of it. She believed their friendship was built on love, not competition. But slowly the warning signs started appearing. "Bestie, I beg, just adopt me. I fit be your younger sister," laughing but serious. "With all these wigs you have, no way. Oh, if I no see husband, I go just say make you dash me money do wedding. You know say you no fit suffer in this life, but people like us, Boma would laugh it off. One day, Boma failed a test, something that had never happened before. She had always been a student, disciplined and hardworking. When she saw the results, she was shocked and convinced it was a mistake. She met the lecturer, Dr. Okon, a strict but fair man. "Sir, I'm sure I did well in that exam," she pleaded. Dr. Okon checked her script. The handwriting was hers, but it looked strange, scribbled, messy, almost as if someone had written it in a trance. More strange occurrences followed. Boma started losing things: her favorite gold bracelet, designer shoes, money. Her ATM card disappeared, only to reappear in places she had already searched. Her phone screen cracked mysteriously. Worst of all, she would see a shadowy figure in her mirror, but when she turned, there was nothing there. Still, she refused to believe anything was wrong. Then one day she fainted in the middle of campus. When she woke up, she was in the hospital. Ini was by her side, holding her hand, looking deeply concerned. "Bestie, you scared me. You need to rest, you've been overworking yourself," Ini said. Boma nodded weakly, but deep down, she knew something wasn't right. Then the worst happened. During a lecture, Boma suddenly collapsed, her body convulsing violently as a seizure took over. The entire hall erupted in chaos. Students screamed and ran out, some standing frozen in shock, while others pulled out their phones, recording the horrifying scene. She was rushed to the school hospital. It took a long time to stabilize her, and when she finally came back to herself, she was met with whispers, worried glances, and the blinding flash of someone still taking a video. Shame washed over her. Ini burst into the hospital room, her eyes red and swollen. "Boma, bestie, what happened?" she cried, holding her hand tightly. Boma, still weak, barely managed to speak. The doctor said, "I have epilepsy." Ini gasped, shaking her head. "Epilepsy? But you've never had anything like that before. How?" Boma's thoughts were in a whirlwind. No one in her family had epilepsy. How could she just wake up one day with it? Her phone buzzed non-stop. Her parents, her siblings, family members, were coming to pick you up from school immediately. Her mother's panicked voice rang in her head, but the doctor assured them it wasn't serious. "We can manage it," he told them. Except it didn't stop. The seizures became frequent, unpredictable. One time, she fell into dirty water in front of her hostel, her body jerking as bystanders watched in horror. Another time, she collapsed near a food vendor, her hand landing in steaming hot soup. The burns took weeks to heal. She never knew when it would happen: while walking, eating, or even sleeping. It was humiliating, terrifying. Her once beautiful face lost its glow. She barely recognized herself in the mirror anymore. Her body felt weak, her confidence shattered. And all the while, Ini remained by her side, crying, holding her, saying, "Bestie, I'm here for you." Days passed and Boma's condition worsened. The headaches became unbearable, striking in sharp, blinding waves that left her dizzy and weak. Her once radiant skin started losing its glow, becoming dull and lifeless. She barely recognized herself in the mirror. Then came the nightmares. Every night she found herself trapped in a dark, endless forest, hearing whispers in a language she didn't understand. Hands reached out from the shadows, clawing at her, tugging at her hair, whispering her name. "Boma, Boma." She would wake up drenched in sweat, her heart pounding with terror. Her friends started noticing the changes. "Boma, are you okay? You don't look good," her course mate Ivy asked one day after class. "You're losing weight, oh." Abby in a heartbreak. Another girl teased. Boma forced a laugh, shaking her head. "I'm fine. Just stress." But she wasn't fine. Then the worst happened. One morning she woke up and gasped in horror. Red, itchy rashes had spread across her arms. "What is this?" she whispered. Scratching at the spots within days, the rashes spread to her back, her neck, even her face. It didn't stop there. Painful boils started appearing, big, red, pus-filled boils that throbbed and burned. She couldn't hide them. People started avoiding her. Some whispered that it was spiritual. Others simply stayed away. Rumors spread like wildfire. Some students whispered that Boma's father had used her for ritual sacrifice in exchange for wealth. Rich people and their secrets, one girl muttered. She was too perfect before. Now see her skin, her body. Something isn't right. Her father is a chief, Abi. Maybe he sacrificed her destiny. Another added in hushed tones. The gossip only made things worse. Boma could feel the stares, the pity in people's eyes. Some avoided sitting near her in class. Others pretended not to know her. She tried to ignore it, but the weight of it all crushed her. The seizures, the nightmares, the rashes, the boils, everything was spiraling out of control. Even Ini, the friend who had once clung to her side, started acting different. She still played the role of a caring best friend, but something about her comfort felt forced, too perfect, too rehearsed. Due to the worsening seizures, Boma had no choice but to go home. Her mother arrived at the university in tears. "Jesus! Boma, what happened to you?" her mother cried. "Mama, help me," Boma whispered, barely able to stand. Her mother wasted no time. The moment they reached home, she started seeking all kinds of medical treatments, from top specialists to herbal remedies. But nothing worked. The seizures continued, and her body grew weaker. One day, a family friend recommended a powerful woman of God prophetess, Deborah, a woman known for revealing hidden things. "This is not an ordinary sickness," the woman had said. "It is karma. Maybe she has collected from where she was not supposed to. She needs deliverance." Even at school, people noticed. Her favorite lecturer, Dr. Usorn, pulled her aside after class. "Boma, my dear, have you seen a doctor?" She nodded weakly. "Yes, sir, but the drugs are not working." Dr. Usorn sighed, his expression grave. "Go home, my child. Go and find help." That night, as Boma lay in bed, Ini walked in, her voice filled with fake concern. "Bestie, what is all this?" she asked, sitting beside her. Boma hugged herself. "I don't know, Ini," she croaked. Ini started rubbing her back gently. "Sorry, Ian. You know what? Let me help you braid your hair so you can cover the rashes on your scalp." Boma tensed. "No need." Ini's eyes flickered. "Are you sure? I can even lend you one of my wigs if you want." Boma's stomach twisted. Her wigs. Since when did Ini start buying human hair wigs? She had never had the money for such things unless she had taken everything from her. Boma swallowed hard. "No, I'm fine," she whispered. For the first time she saw it clearly. Ini was never her friend. She was her enemy, and she had been blind all along. By the end of the semester, Boma was a shadow of herself. Her skin was covered in sores, her body weak, her once beautiful face now unrecognizable. She was failing her courses, her social life was gone, and she barely had the strength to eat. Yet Innie still kept borrowing her wigs. "Bestie, this one fine die. Just for 2 days, I beg," I would say. Boma, too exhausted to argue, would just let her take them. But deep down, she knew she had to put a stop to it. She had no strength, no help. Until she remembered the woman her grandmother used to talk about, a powerful prophetess. Boma's mother wept as she held her daughter close, watching helplessly as the seizures and mysterious afflictions ravaged her once beautiful child. They had tried everything: doctors, specialists, traditional medicine, yet nothing worked. The seizures became worse, her skin covered in painful boils, and her body was growing weaker by the day. A family friend finally recommended Prophetess Deborah, a powerful woman of God known for exposing hidden enemies. "This is not an ordinary sickness," the woman had warned. "It is karma she has collected from where she was not supposed to. She needs deliverance." Then they finally went to meet Prophetess Deborah. Boma was weak, her once glowing skin covered in sores, her body frail, and her spirit nearly broken. Her mother held her close as they stepped into the prophetess's prayer chamber. Before the deliverance could begin, Prophetess Deborah looked deeply into Boma's eyes. "My child, this battle is not ordinary. It has been long orchestrated in the kingdom of darkness. You must fast for 7 days. During this period, we shall call on the name of the Lord for intervention, deliverance, and total restoration." Boma, though weak, nodded in obedience. For the next 7 days, Boma, her mother, and the entire church fasted and prayed, crying out to God for mercy. Prayer warriors gathered in intercession, reading from the book of Isaiah 49:25. "But thus saith the Lord, even the captives of the mighty shall be taken away, and the prey of the terrible shall be delivered. For I will contend with him that contendeth with thee, and I will save thy children." The Holy Spirit took control. Voices of prayer filled the air. Prophetess Deborah and the prayer warriors laid hands on Boma, declaring her freedom in the name of Jesus. Her mother sobbed on the altar, "Lord, have mercy. Deliver my child from the hands of her enemies." As the 7th day arrived, the power of God was at its peak. At the same hour, in a hidden shrine deep in the forest, Innie stood before the old woman, completely unaware that her plans were about to fail. The old woman stirred the murky water in the calabash, watching a single strand of Boma's hair float. "Tonight is the night," the old woman said, throwing black powder into the flames. "Her destiny will be fully yours. She will never rise again." Innie smirked, clutching Boma's most recent wig, the one she had borrowed just days ago. "She thought she was better than me," Innie muttered. "But after tonight she will be nothing." She lifted the wig over the fire and chanted, "I take everything. Let her be nothing but dust." The fire roared, but at that exact moment in the church, Boma let out a blood-curdling scream. Her body convulsed as if unseen hands were tearing at her. Her skin burned, her head pounded, and her soul felt like it was being ripped apart. Her mother's screams filled the room. "Jesus, save my daughter. Prophetess, what is happening?" The prophetess did not flinch. Instead, she lifted her staff and shouted, "They are trying to claim the final piece of her soul, but they will fail. The Lord is a man of war. Every evil manipulation be destroyed by fire. Say these words after me," she commanded Boma. Boma, through pain and gasps, struggled to repeat the words, "I reject every stolen glory. I take back what is mine. I break every evil chain in Jesus' name." The moment she spoke, the burning candle beside her exploded. The entire church shook as an unseen force was broken. Back in the shrine, Innie suddenly screamed. "What is happening?" she shrieked as her body trembled violently. The old woman's eyes widened in horror. Something is resisting. Someone is fighting back. The fire dimmed, and to Innie's shock, the wig in her hands turned to ashes. "No, this is impossible," she cried. The shrine began to shake violently. Back in the church, Boma stood up on her feet for the first time in months. Strength flowed through her body. Her boils vanished. Her rashes disappeared. The prophetess raised her voice in victory. Every stolen star return. A deafening boom shook both the church and the shrine. In the shrine, Innie collapsed, blood dripping from her nose. "My power, my beauty," she wailed. The old woman shook her violently. "You fool, you have lost everything. The spirits have rejected you." For the first time, Innie saw it. Her once flawless skin was covered in the same boils and rashes that had tormented Boma. No, this can't be happening," she screamed. The old woman turned to flee, but before she could escape, a mighty wind swept through the shrine, knocking down the clay pots and destroying the sacred altar. The shrine collapsed in flames. Innie screamed as fire consumed everything around her. "Help me," she cried. But there was no one left to save her. At that exact moment, back in the church, Boma gasped as a new wave of strength surged through her body. She was freed. The next morning, Boma woke up to find herself completely restored. Her mother wept and hugged her tightly. "My daughter, you are whole again." Boma smiled for the first time in months. Prophetess Deborah watched her, a knowing look in her eyes. "The battle was won in the spirit before it was won in the physical," she declared. Then she turned to Boma and said, "The Lord has revealed the true reason behind your attack." Boma's breath caught. What was it? The prophetess exhaled deeply. Jealousy. Boma's heart clenched. "Innie had always envied you, but the day you refused to lend her your wig, she took it as a personal insult. She made a vow that night to destroy you completely. The spirit of envy and destruction entered her, and she sought to strip you of everything you had: your beauty, your favor, your success." Tears filled Boma's eyes. "I thought she was my best friend," she whispered. The prophetess placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Not everyone who smiles with you is for you, my child, but the Lord has fought for you." Boma nodded, realizing the truth at last. She was no longer a victim. She was victorious. After her miraculous deliverance and restoration, Boma knew she could never return to the life she once lived. She had learned the hard way that not everyone who calls you bestie has good intentions. With the support of her family, she left the country to start a new chapter of her life abroad. She pursued her dreams, furthered her education, and built a successful career. The scars of her past became a testimony of God's faithfulness. Over time, she forgave Innie, but she never forgot the lesson: be wise as serpents and harmless as doves, Matthew 10:16. Boma thrived in her new life, her beauty, intelligence, and favor restored. She was now stronger, wiser, and victorious. Her story became an inspiration to many who had faced betrayal and spiritual attacks. She used her experience to warn others about the dangers of envy, the power of discernment, and the importance of putting trust in God. Important lesson. This story teaches us a powerful lesson about friendship, envy, and the unseen battles of life. Not everyone who smiles with you is truly happy for you. Jealousy can turn even the closest friends into hidden enemies. The Bible warns us in Proverbs 4:23, "Guard your heart with all diligence, for out of it spring the issues of life." Be careful who you trust. Always pray for discernment, and never take the spiritual realm for granted. The enemy may plan evil, but when you call on Jesus Christ, no weapon formed against you shall prosper. Like, comment, subscribe. If you enjoyed this story and learned something valuable, make sure to like this video, comment your thoughts, and subscribe for more educational African folk tales and spiritual wisdom. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any powerful stories that will open your eyes and inspire you. More lessons and thrilling folk tales are coming your way. Stay tuned.